Welcome to the What is YPAR module. Today we are diving into an exciting and transformative approach to education and community development, Youth Participatory Action Research, or YPAR. This method empowers young people to investigate and address issues within their schools and communities through collaborative, data-driven inquiry, action, and change-making. YPAR positions youth as experts and change-makers, breaking down traditional power structures and fostering empowerment and social change. By engaging with the world around them, young people build the capacity to lead and inspire improvements in their communities. This training module is designed for adults in schools, community organizations, or higher education institutions to explore the powerful process of YPAR. It serves as the first in a series of 9 modules, introducing the purpose and process of YPAR to support meaningful engagement and learning. Whether you are an educator, community leader, or researcher, embracing YPAR means recognizing and supporting the incredible potential of youth to drive meaningful and lasting change. In YPAR, youth work alongside adults to identify issues that affect their schools and communities to take action to create positive change. So, let's dive in and understand what YPAR is about, how it works, and why it's such a powerful tool for improving the opportunities and resources for all youth to thrive. YPAR is an excellent fit for schools, community organizations, educators, and researchers. Successful YPAR projects involve partnerships between youth and adults, where adults take on a supporting role rather than leading the way. You may have heard about other ways to engage youth, like youth serving on advisory boards, youth participating in philanthropy, or youth participating in organizing efforts. YPAR is a special approach to youth engagement, as we describe in the next section. What is YPAR? YPAR is an innovative approach to positive youth and community development. It emphasizes the importance of young people conducting inquiry and identifying and addressing issues that impact their lives. But YPAR isn't just about gathering data or information for the sake of it. It's a cyclical process of learning and action where young people use their research findings to address the problems they care about. Unlike traditional research, where youth might only be subjects or data collectors, YPAR gives youth a seat at the table as co-researchers and centers their voices in the research process. While you may hear the word research and think that this is only for people in colleges or universities, the term research in YPAR means that youth use research tools, like surveys, focus groups, or even methods like community mapping to understand an issue that impacts young people. Then, youth analyze the data they collect, share their findings with others, and advocate for specific changes to policies or practices. What is not YPAR? YPAR is one way to engage young people. There are other ways to facilitate youth participation. It is important to distinguish YPAR from the other types of youth-focused activities. For example, these activities are not considered YPAR. Youth collecting data for adults as part of a research study, youth participating in a focus group or interview, youth being matched with an adult mentor, youth participating on an advisory board where they give feedback to an organization, and youth helping a community budget for youth-oriented programs. YPAR goes beyond these activities in a few key ways. First, youth have leadership roles in YPAR. Second, YPAR involves research. And finally, YPAR involves action stemming from the research. So in YPAR, young people actively define the research agenda, conduct the research, and lead action steps. What is the purpose of YPAR? In YPAR, youth and adults both contribute their knowledge and skills. Adults provide training and support so that youth can identify an issue in their community, select a research question, identify ways to collect information to answer their question, and collect that information in the form of numbers, text, or art. Youth then analyze their findings to better understand the problems that are relevant to their lives. Then, young people advocate for their desired change and take action to make it happen. YPAR encourages young people to use their lived experiences as valuable knowledge and challenges the traditional notion that only adults or professional researchers can generate trustworthy research. For example, students might investigate the lack of mental health resources in their schools. After collecting and analyzing data, they could present their findings to educators, parents, and community members, advocating for the implementation of peer support programs, increased access to counselors, or solutions to problems that cause psychological stress at their school. Through YPAR, youth learn to ask critical questions, gather evidence, and propose solutions that address issues that matter most to them and their communities. For more on how YPAR increases youth engagement and empowerment across a range of communities and issues, please see the YPAR Hub Spotlights page. The YPAR process. Let's break down the steps of the YPAR process. Step 1. Planning. Before you get started with a group of youth, there are a few things that have been found to increase the success of the YPAR experience. These considerations are increasing adult preparedness, using existing tools, identifying and recruiting the youth team that best matches the goals of the project, and ensuring you have resources to support this work. First, approach this work with humility. Think about the type of training you might need. What other skills or knowledge might you need? Even if you are an expert researcher, you may not be an expert in working with youth. Or you may be excellent at working with youth but have limited research skills. Or the youth may be working on a topic you know very little about. The best part about YPAR is that we all get to continue learning. We always recommend adults have some training in mental health. One widely available training is called Youth Mental Health First Aid. Training like this may be helpful for adults to meet the needs of young people if and when they arise. Second, don't reinvent the wheel. There are many excellent resources on how to train youth in YPAR. Third, consider who will be engaged. Is there a particular group or demographic of young people who you most want to learn from? Do you have an existing group? What lived experience is it important for the youth researchers to bring to the table? What are the ages of the young people? If you do not have a pre-existing relationship with a group of youth, it will be important to build that relationship before you begin this process. Finally, think about the resources you might need. In general, we strongly recommend that you consider how YPAR might build on or be integrated into existing classes or programs, so it has a better chance of being sustained over time and meets young people where they are, rather than creating all new meetings and roles. Funding is essential if you want to purchase supplies and/or compensate youth for any extra time they might be spending out of school or programs they already attend. But funding may not always be possible. If you do not have funding, it is particularly important to consider how this might limit who can participate in the YPAR project and what the activities will be. These considerations are just to get you started and will be covered more fully in future modules. Step 2. Building your team. The next step, once you have youth identified, is to establish a strong, cohesive team where members both know and trust each other. This is important because you might talk about some sensitive topics or experiences. It is important that you, as an adult, prioritize a feeling of safety and create that with the youth. One piece of this puzzle is co-creating group agreements that enable everyone to show up fully. It also includes getting to know one another and developing a sense of teamwork. This foundational step is key to building trust, effective communication, and collaboration, which are essential to the success of your project. Finally, you may want to build foundational knowledge and skill building around discussing topics like fairness or justice. The YPAR Hub and the Stepping Stones curriculum both offer activities that can help facilitate team building, norm setting, and helping to establish a smooth start to the project. Step 3. Defining the research question. With your team in place and in the process of building trust, it is time to define the research question. This step involves working with youth to narrow down a single, meaningful problem that they want to explore further. This could be an issue they are facing personally, or a broader community challenge they are passionate about. Sometimes the adult leaders or organization might have clear guidelines or goals around the topic of focus. Other times, young people can explore broadly. An activity that some people use for this process is called the burning wall of problems, where young people each receive several blank post-it notes and are encouraged to write one concern per post-it. Then, after posting all of the notes, young people can find themes and select one topic of great interest. In prior YPAR projects, groups have chosen from a wide range of issues that affect their well-being and development, such as improving students' sense of belonging in school, improving student-teacher or peer-to-peer relationships, or improving health in their community by increasing access to healthy food, green spaces, or reducing air pollution. Step 4. Developing tools and collecting information and data. Data collection is a critical step in YPAR. Youth develop tools and collect data or information about the problem they chose to study. Youth can learn about and choose from various methods of data collection or information gathering, including surveys, interviews, focus groups, photo voice, or other artistic expression. Each method has unique advantages, and youth should select those that align with their research questions and personal interests. Another option is to use existing data. Consider the following research methods. In quantitative methods, data is in the form of numbers. The most common tool for collecting quantitative data is a survey. Survey items that use numerical scales are a structured method that usually involves some form of numerical analysis and offers a broad understanding of trends or patterns. Quantitative methods are often best when you want to collect a lot of data from a group, or if it is important to quantify the findings. For example, a survey exploring community attitudes towards air quality in a local neighborhood, or youth collecting air quality samples from 100 locations in their community. In qualitative methods, data is in the form of words, stories, or narratives. Common qualitative methods are interviews, focus groups, and observations. Qualitative methods are often best when you want to gain an understanding of the lived experience of a specific group of people or community. These methods can provide deeper insights into personal experiences and opinions. For example, a focus group, where youth examine how systemic racism affects mental health. They use their observations to compare graffiti patterns in low-income versus high-income areas within their county. In arts-based methods, data is in the form of visual or performance art accompanied by interpretation and meaning-making. Art is increasingly being used in YPAR. The most common form of arts-based data collection is photo voice, which allows a group of young people to take photos of their experience and write captions to highlight it. Here, the data are in the form of photos and captions. Sometimes, there is already information available about a concern or topic. This data could be collected by the school in a survey or by the city or state. Finding and interpreting this information can help young people answer their research questions. Step 5. Analyzing and interpreting data. After gathering data or information, the next step is to analyze it. This involves reviewing the data to identify patterns, trends, and emerging themes. Youth engage in this process to understand the significance of their findings and draw conclusions that align with the research goals. Demystifying data analysis is a crucial step. Youth need training in how to analyze and interpret the data. This involves examining whether the data supports the thoughts, feelings, and assumptions the youth had about their topic. Sometimes the data doesn't support our personal opinions, and that's okay. It is important to really listen to what the data is saying. YPAR teams, including youth and adults, may need practical support with data analysis, such as organizing the information in a spreadsheet or creating themes from quotes. Here are two examples from the YPAR literature that highlight how youth interpret data. In one study, youth analyzed community survey data revealed that youth of color in a local school were disproportionately impacted by environmental hazards like poor air quality. In another YPAR project addressing urban food insecurity, youth participants interpreted photographs they captured of their food environments, such as grocery stores, empty fridges, and community gardens. By analyzing these images, participants identified systemic barriers to food access and developed actionable solutions, deepening their understanding of food inequities in their community. Step 6. Taking action and engaging in advocacy. Once data are analyzed, it is time to work with the group to identify possible actions and support the group to create change. This step includes many different activities and is critical to YPAR. Youth should be encouraged to translate their research into tangible actions that address the identified issues. Start by identifying one or two key themes or insights from your data that you wish to address. Consider questions like, what issues do the data highlight that indicate the need to modify an existing program, introduce new initiatives, or revise a rule or policy? Then, you need to identify who should hear about the research. You might ask, who are the key stakeholders who should hear our findings? What is the best way to communicate our findings in a way that key stakeholders can understand? This might mean you create a report or put together a presentation of your findings and present it to a principal or school board. In some YPAR cases, youth present their findings to decision makers and encourage the decision makers to take action based on the information. In other YPAR projects, youth engage in community organizing and advocate for specific changes. If the young people's findings point to a need to change a rule or policy or require adding a new program, it can be helpful for your group to research solutions that have worked to address this challenge in the past. This is often an added step to the YPAR process, but it ensures that the suggestions you are making to address the needs identified during their data collection process have the desired impact. There are many examples of youth and adults partnering in YPAR to create change. Here are two examples. In one project, youth changed school policy to address racial biases they found in the discipline practices of their school. In another project, youth created maps of their community and demonstrated a need for adding additional bus routes that connected young people to public spaces and other community resources. Recapping the YPAR process. We went through the 6 steps of the YPAR process. Here they are again. 1. Planning. This phase involves assessing available resources, understanding the youth's and community's needs, and setting clear goals for the research. 2. Build your team. YPAR relies on building strong relationships and trust among the youth researchers and between the youth and adults. This is where collaboration and communication are key. 3. Identify a problem. Together, the team of youth and adults identifies a problem that youth are passionate about and want to address. 4. Develop research tools and collect data. Youth learn about and choose from a variety of research methods such as surveys, interviews, or creative approaches like art and photography. They develop their research tools and go out and collect data. 5. Analyze and interpret data. Youth analyze the data they've collected to identify patterns, trends, and themes that reflect the perspectives of people in their community. 6. Take action. The final phase involves identifying who should hear about the findings and developing plans for social change, such as advocating for policy changes or creating community initiatives. YPAR in practice. What makes a successful YPAR environment? First, it's a setting that centers youth experiences. This means adults must recognize youth as the highest authority in their own lives. When youth lead decision making, we can create developmentally rich and culturally responsive partnerships that allow for meaningful learning and action. Second, successful YPAR environments have adult partners who are dedicated to equity. These adults commit to making pedagogical and relational shifts to support youth inquiry, voice, and leadership. They also commit to action research, working alongside youth to advocate for tangible change in their schools and communities. Educators who are willing to design learning experiences around students' interests, strengths, and needs are particularly well suited to YPAR. And it's not just about youth, it also challenges adults to shift their thinking. Adults involved in YPAR must be comfortable discussing equity issues with youth and other community stakeholders, and they also must be invested in youth-led inquiry and action. Tips for success. Set yourself up for success with these key tips for working with young people. Build strong relationships. Establish trust and communication with youth. Create an inclusive environment where everyone feels valued. Prioritize youth voice. Empower youth by centering their perspectives. Foster meaningful participation throughout the research process. Plan for the future. Develop plans to ensure the impact of the project continues beyond its completion. This may involve community partnerships or ongoing youth engagement. In conclusion, YPAR is a strategy for empowerment and social change. By positioning young people as experts, it helps break down traditional power structures and builds youth capacity to address the issues that impact them. Whether you're an educator, community leader, or researcher, embracing YPAR means recognizing the potential of youth to lead, create, and inspire change. If you're interested in integrating YPAR into your school or community, remember that it starts with listening to youth, understanding their experiences, supporting their inquiries, and working together to make a difference. YPAR offers youth the opportunity to transform their communities by empowering them to take an active role in research and social change. By fostering shared power, uplifting youth perspectives, and promoting action, YPAR can lead to meaningful and lasting justice outcomes. Thank you for joining us for this overview of YPAR. We hope this module inspires you to engage youth in meaningful, collaborative research that leads to real-world change. This series of modules is a collaboration between the Colorado School of Public Health, the University of California, Berkeley, and the YPAR Network. Funding for this series is provided by the Bezos Family Foundation. The UC Berkeley YPAR Hub offers foundational materials, tools, and lesson plans to support your project. These resources focus on essential topics like youth-adult partnerships, community engagement, and promoting equality, which are vital to the YPAR process. You can access these materials at the UC Berkeley YPAR Hub. Additionally, UC Davis's Stepping Stones project complements this by offering resources aligned with 6 core values. These resources provide a strong framework for YPAR, enriching the learning process and supporting implementation of YPAR in different contexts. Explore these resources at UC Davis Stepping Stones project. By following these steps and leveraging the available resources, you can successfully plan and execute YPAR that empowers youth, promotes social change, and has a lasting impact on the community.